Excuse me, are you? The emaciated woman was brought to the hospital where I work.
When I heard her story, nostalgic memories flooded back.
Could this person be? No, but.
As the woman continued speaking, I nervously addressed her.
My name is Ryan.
In my 30s, I'm currently a doctor, seeing patients every day. Although the daily efforts to help the community can be tough, my life is very fulfilling. Now recognized as a renowned doctor, I've had to overcome many hardships to get here.
When I was 7, my father died in a disaster.
My mother, suddenly losing the family's breadwinner, worked herself to death, following my father. With no relatives to turn to, I ended up in an orphanage. There were many children like me without families or abandoned by their parents.
At first, the drastic change from my previous life made me withdrawn from people. Why did my father and mother leave me behind?
My mind was filled with such pessimistic thoughts, and I would always sit alone in the corner of the room, feeling down. What changed me were the kind staff and other children.
Ryan, you don't have a mom and dad, right? A younger girl approached and asked.
She probably had her own reasons for being in the orphanage.
Yeah, that's right. I see, me too. I don't have any family left. When I answered, the girl looked sad.
Seeing her so alone, I found myself speaking up without thinking.
Then from now on, I'll be your big brother. Really? I'm so happy.
Seeing her face light up, I felt like I truly gained a sister. Being an only child, I had always longed for siblings. After that, taking care of the other children as if they were my siblings, I found myself feeling more positive. But those children were gradually adopted. A few months later, the girl who talked to me also left with a foster family, smiling. She'll probably live in a warm family from now on. I supported their happy futures while feeling lonely myself.
I also wanted to be needed by a family. But no one ever adopted me.
Several years later, I was in high school, focusing on part-time jobs and studying instead of joining clubs. In my situation, leisurely joining a club wasn't an option. Ideally, I wanted to work after middle school to avoid burdening the orphanage. But the staff encouraged me to at least finish high school, telling me about scholarships available for high school students. Attending high school changed my life significantly.
Being in a different environment from my hometown friends helped me grow as a person. My classmates were very different from those in middle school, for better or worse.
Since the high school was a college prep school, part-time jobs were not allowed.
However, the teachers understood my situation and made an exception for me.
I found a high-paying but tough job, and not working wasn't an option. As I worked and studied until I was exhausted every day.
The staff often checked on me. Ryan, are you okay? Don't overwork yourself. Yes. Thank you for your concern.
Each time, I felt both grateful and apologetic. The staff at the orphanage had been kind to me from the moment I arrived, and I was truly grateful for that. That's why I worked hard in high school and at my part-time jobs, to repay the kindness I had received.
After finishing high school, I went on to college.
After graduating from college, I aimed to go to medical school to pursue a career in healthcare. It was my high school mentor who guided me on this path.
At first, I was hesitant because I thought I couldn't afford medical school, but Mr. Smith persuaded me passionately. He pointed out that despite working tough jobs, my grades were excellent, and he encouraged me to pursue my talents. The truth is, my father had died from injuries sustained in the disaster. Because of that, I grew up wondering if I could have saved my father's life if I had been a doctor.
I dreamed of becoming a doctor to help people suffering from accidents and disasters, to prevent more children from experiencing the sorrow I did. However, the cost of college alone was daunting, and the thought of medical school tuition was overwhelming. So I had given up on the idea of pursuing medicine from the start. But Mr. Smith researched and found local universities with scholarship programs and medical schools that recently announced full tuition waivers. These programs offered various special benefits for academically talented and financially struggling students,
such as tuition waivers and scholarships.
Encouraged by the idea that I might qualify, I felt my heart swell with hope.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
Thus, I resolved to become a doctor and, after intense studying, I was accepted. I was also selected as a special scholarship student, starting my journey toward my dream of becoming a doctor. However, even with tuition covered, I still needed to earn money for living expenses. So, I started working part-time as soon as I enrolled, trying to save as much as possible. I found a high-paying but tough job and worked tirelessly, sacrificing my free time. Balancing work and studies was extremely challenging, but maintaining good grades and proper conduct was essential to keep my scholarship. Therefore, I made sure to keep up my studies and never let my grades slip. As a result, I managed to save some money, graduated top of my class, and entered medical school, only to find myself immediately immersed in clinical training. Experiencing team-based medical care with patients, their families, and fellow doctors made the reality of becoming a doctor sink in. Clinical training was tough, but the thought of becoming a doctor filled me with joy, and I enjoyed encouraging each other with my classmates. After graduating from medical school and obtaining my medical license, I began my 2-year residency. This was essentially a training period for doctors. And the daily grind often made me question the joy and fulfillment I once felt during clinical training. There was so much to learn, and the demanding environment, often influenced by the mood of senior doctors, was incredibly stressful. The environment was so challenging that I sometimes thought about quitting. In such moments, I remembered the encouraging words from the orphanage staff. Even as a resident, I would visit the orphanage when I could. The staff always greeted me warmly, saying, "How are things going? Don't overdo it, keep up the good work." Their support was a real source of strength for me. Being a resident is tough. Are you okay? You're not overdoing it? Yes, it's tough, but I'm managing. You don't look well, are you eating properly? You've always been so serious and overworked yourself since you were little. No matter how much I reassured them, they seemed to understand my condition and personality perfectly. I smiled to mask my feelings, appreciating their long-standing support. But as time went on, I became truly exhausted. One day, lying on a bench by the hospital's back entrance, a stranger approached me. This area was off limits to outsiders, but as I watched, the person spoke to me. "Hello." She was a beautiful woman with a kind smile, and I felt a little flustered. "Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. I'm here for work." "Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too. I'm Ryan." When I introduced myself, Emily extended her hand for a handshake. I reached out, and she smiled warmly. Emily had a friendly personality, and despite being strangers, she chatted with me comfortably. Encouraged by her, I found myself responding more and more. I learned from our conversations that Emily was about 10 years older than me. I was surprised because she looked so young and beautiful. We ended up talking a lot about work, favorite music, and other topics. "I come here often, so let's chat again." "Yeah, I'd like to talk to you again too." "That's nice of you to say." "See you then." Emily waved and walked away. I knew she didn't see me as a man since I was 10 years younger, but I still wanted to see and talk with her. The turning point in my life came after meeting Emily a few times. One day, I was so busy that I forgot to eat lunch, and my stomach growled loudly in front of Emily. "Ryan, are you eating properly?" "I didn't have time today. The hospital cafeteria is closed, and I can't afford to buy a lunchbox from the convenience store." "Really?" I honestly admitted that I was struggling financially. People often think doctors earn high salaries, but as a resident, I earned less than most office workers my age. I was so busy that I couldn't cook. And ready-made food was expensive, so I sometimes skipped meals. After hearing my story, Emily smiled warmly and made an unexpected offer. "Then I'll bring you lunch. It would make things easier for you, right?" "Really? Is that okay with you?" I was surprised, and Emily's face lit up. "If we meet here every day, you can have lunch. But I'd feel bad about causing you trouble." "It's fine. I make lunch every day anyways, so it's no extra trouble to make 2 instead of 1. Encouraged by Emily's smile, I agreed to have her make lunch for me every day. At first, I thought she was joking, but the next day, she really brought me a lunchbox. "Here you go. Thank you so much. I'll wash the lunchbox and return it. You're such a good kid. Just bring it back tomorrow, I know you're busy." Emily laughed brightly and handed me the lunchbox. The work as a resident was still tough, but eating Emily's lunchbox gave me the strength to keep going. Looking back, Her lunchbox was probably the first homemade meal I had since my childhood.
For several months, Emily brought me lunch every day. Her lunchbox were always delicious, well-balanced, and thoughtfully prepared. If someone asked if I liked Emily, I couldn't deny it. However, I knew she didn't see me as a man, so I didn't ask for more. But our relationship abruptly ended. One day, Emily called me out of the blue. "I'm sorry, but I can't bring you lunch anymore starting tomorrow." I was surprised and worried about what happened to her, but I didn't think it was my place to pry. I told Emily, "Thank you for everything. Let me repay you someday," before hanging up the phone, but after that, she never appeared at the hospital again. When I asked the hospital staff, they only said the contractor had changed. I tried calling Emily, but I never got through. I didn't want to bother her by calling repeatedly, so I eventually stopped trying. Sometimes, I would look at the lunchbox I still had and wonder if she was doing okay. Years later, I was working at a community hospital dedicated to supporting local healthcare. I had become recognized as a specialist and was known as a leading doctor in community healthcare. Now, I no longer struggled financially and was considered one of the top doctors at the hospital. I made sure to provide thorough care for each patient and worked to improve the hospital's system to accept all patients. I created a hospital capable of handling emergencies, with the hope that no more children would lose their parents to injury or illness like I did. With the support of the hospital director, Dr. Davis, and my colleagues, I had a fulfilling job every day. Surrounded by a reliable staff that I could trust. Although I remained single, I had no regrets. Years had passed since Emily's sudden disappearance, and yet I still had no idea where she was. I never forgot about her, not for a single day. Emily's smile and lunchbox had kept me going during my toughest times. I tried searching for her many times, but each attempt ended in disappointment. No matter how grateful I was, to Emily, I was just an acquaintance. Even consulting the police led nowhere, as I had no legal standing. In the end, 25 years passed without a trace of Emily, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. One day, while working at the hospital, I was contemplating dinner as I saw my last few patients for the day. There were fewer patients than usual, and the staff on day shift were already cleaning up. What should I eat tonight? Maybe I should visit the nearby pub for the first time in a while. As I daydreamed about the menu, I got a call about a patient being brought in by ambulance. "I'll be right there." In the treatment room, I found a woman who had fallen down some stairs at the train station. She was lying there, looking frail and skinny. Upon examination, I discovered that she had broken her left leg. Even after treating her injuries, she remained unconscious. Considering her poor physical condition, it seemed like she had been exhausted long before this incident. I suggested moving her to a quieter room to aid her recovery. She had no identification or contact information, so we admitted her and waited for her to regain consciousness. The next day, I examined her once she woke up. "Are you okay? Can you tell me your name?" She slowly turned to look at me, her eyes filled with sadness. "Where do you live? Do you have any family or contacts?" She silently shook her head in response to my questions. Unsure of what to ask next, I decided to try another approach. "Can you tell me what happened? I'd like to help if I can." After a few attempts, she began to speak gradually. It turned out she had been helping with her father's business, but when finances became strained and she confronted him, he abandoned her and disappeared. The business collapsed, and she found a new job, but the pay was low and her savings dwindled quickly. Years ago, her parents had divorced after her father had an affair, and she had no one to rely on. Now, she lives in a shabby apartment, struggling to make ends meet, and had fallen while trying to go grocery shopping due to exhaustion. "That's quite a situation," I said, unable to find better words. But then she shared something surprising. "Years ago, I knew a young medical student who couldn't afford to eat, so I made lunchbox for him." What? Hearing her words brought back nostalgic memories. Could this really be? No, but... While I was in shock, she continued talking. "He always accepted them so happily. Just seeing his face light up made me happy. But now, I can't even feed myself." She made lunch for a medical student who couldn't afford to eat? I used to be a young man who could barely able to afford food, and a woman I knew used to bring me a lunchbox. Her daily act of kindness had always filled me with joy. There couldn't be many people in this world who would make lunchbox for someone who wasn't family. Forgetting my professional stance, I nervously asked, "Are you Emily Summers?" "What?" The woman blinked in surprise and stared at me. "My name is Ryan. Back when I was a resident, struggling with low pay and no time to rest, I met you, Emily, and you brought me lunchbox." "No way, it can't be. I was always so happy and grateful, but then you suddenly disappeared." I watched her reaction closely. Tears began to fall from her large eyes as she said, "I am Emily Summers." "It really is you, Emily." "Ryan. You've become a wonderful doctor." "Thanks to you, Emily. I am truly grateful." "Thank you so much." Emily smiled gently, her face as beautiful as ever. But behind that lovely smile, I couldn't forget the tragic circumstances she had just shared. I wondered what I should do next. I couldn't just discharge Emily and let her go. I couldn't abandon the woman who had helped me during my toughest times. What should I do? What could I do for Emily? After considering various possibilities, I came to a conclusion. It might upset her, but I thought it was the best option given the circumstances. "Emily, if you don't mind, would you stay at my place after you're discharged?" "What?" Emily's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, she would be shocked. The man she once gave lunchbox to. And now he was asking her to live with him. "I'm a doctor now and financially stable. If you don't want to, I won't force you, but I'm worried about you. I think things might get worse if you continue as you are." I spoke honestly about my concerns. Emily looked down, contemplating, and after a while, she murmured, "Would it be okay for someone like me to live with you?" "I want you to live with me. You helped me back then, and now it's my turn to help you. Then, I'll take you up on your offer." "Great." Seeing Emily's shy smile, I felt a deep sense of relief. I wanted to make up for all the hardship she had endured. As soon as she was discharged, I brought her to my home. Years have passed since that surprising reunion. Emily still lives with me, and she looks happy. Her once skinny body is now healthy and her expressions are much brighter. Emily often thanks me. And it's become a habit for me to thank her in return. When we got used to living together, I asked her a question that had been on my mind. "By the way, why did you bring me lunchbox?" It must have been difficult to do that every day. Emily then shared something surprising. "You reminded me of my brother." It turned out that Emily had a much younger brother, and they were separated when their parents divorced. He went with their mother. They had been close siblings, and she often made meals for her hungry brother. Seeing me, a boy of similar age struggling and hungry, she couldn't just stand by. So she decided to bring me lunchbox as something she could do to help. I see. He was a wonderful brother. Knowing a boy your age was hungry, I just couldn't ignore it. Hearing Emily's response, I thought once again how kind she was. Glad I asked. I had one more question. Why did you suddenly stop coming to the hospital? At that time, my father disappeared. I had to close down his business and contact all the clients, so I was overwhelmed. I see. Even in such a tough situation, you still contacted me. Thank you so much. I thanked Emily again. Memories flooded back, and tears welled up in my eyes. Emily gently hugged me. Emily has continued to live with me since then. We are neither lovers nor spouses, but living with Emily makes me genuinely happy. Though unspoken, I hope she feels the same way. I hope we can stay together forever. With that thought, I continue my work at the hospital today,